to another episode of Digital Nomad on Fire, and I am with
Shelbi Wade.
Okay, and I'm still in Bansko today. We just walked into the shop actually. It is sort of mid-September, so the weather's starting to get a bit colder, but it's sunny today, which is good. So I'm just talking to different digital nomads to see how they got into it. And so how did you become a digital nomad?
Well, I was working in Spain, teaching English there, and when my contract ran up, I needed to find something else to do, so I decided to start teaching online. And now I'm just taking the opportunity to travel around while I teach, since I can teach from anywhere.
And you didn't want to stay in Spain?
Oh, I did, but without a work contract, I can only stay 90 out of 180 days.
Oh, so you were teaching online. You weren't teaching like in a Spanish school or something?
I was teaching in a Spanish school, but I had a contract, and so now I've moved fully online.
Okay, so you didn't want to keep working at the school, or they just didn't want to keep you on?
I did, but I was with a program where your school doesn't get much of a choice and you don't get much of a choice. The government kind of just says, oh, you've got 2 years here, and then we're going to move you. And so my program wanted to move me as well, and so I decided to just go ahead and take some time to travel, and I can still go back to where I was living in Malaga when I like, rather than be located in another part of Spain.
So it's not that you got fired because you're a bad teacher, it's that you wanted to move somewhere. Okay, no, that's good. That's good to know.
Least, yeah.
And how did you originally, so then I guess you weren't a digital nomad, you were just an expat?
Yeah. No, because I wasn't working online for the longest time. Towards the end of my stay in Spain, I was meeting more and more students who wanted to be tutored, and due to COVID, all the tutoring was happening online. And so I was able to kind of keep that, and when I started working doing my teaching online, I was able to keep some of those students as well and use some of that experience once I fully transitioned over.
So you're pretty new to the whole digital nomad thing then, I guess?
I'm very new.
How's it going so far?
Oh, well, I love it. I love my students, and I love that I can travel while I work. For me, this is just the perfect situation. I get to kind of do all of the things that I love at one time.
And when you first went to Spain, were you expecting to make this transition, or?
I've worked online, teaching online before, but in Spain, I think I just went into it, I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations. I think this has always been kind of my backup plan, and so I knew, I guess it was a possibility, but yeah, just kind of going with the flow.
And what made you, so where are you from originally?
I'm from Kansas, right in the middle of the US.
Okay, I won't make any Wizard of Oz references because it's too obvious.
Okay.
I'm sure no one ever does that, right?
Nobody, ever.
Great. And so you were just working there and you thought, I'm going to go and teach English in Spain, or how did that come about?
Well, I've always loved traveling and really living in other countries.
Oh, so you did that before Spain?
Yeah, I've lived for a bit in Paris, or just outside of Paris, and I've lived for a bit in Brazil as well. I've also spent a lot of summers abroad growing up, so that really kind of fueled my love of travel. But yeah, for Americans, since we make it so hard, our government makes it so hard for other people to come and live and work. There's not as many opportunities if you don't have a work contract. It can be a little bit tricky, and so when I saw this opportunity to go and live and work in Spain, I really jumped on it. I thought it was a great opportunity. And
what was the opportunity? Like, how did you find out about it?
Well, it's this government program they have actually a lot of other countries do it as well. The Philippines, France, England, just to name a few. But basically you go and you work at a school as an assistant teacher, and you help to teach English or French or whatever, and then you also help share about your culture as well. And it can be kind of different based off of what school you're at, but I'd already had a history in working in childcare and education, and so for me it was kind of it already sounded like something amazing.
Great. So what were you? So you said you lived in Brazil and Paris. What were you doing in those places?
In Paris, I was an au pair, and then in Brazil, I was volunteering at an orphanage.
Wow.
Or well, they call it an orphanage, but it's kind of more of a daycare.
Okay, and that sounds quite rewarding.
It was really, really fun. I was working with the 2-year-olds and I couldn't speak hardly any Portuguese. And there was maybe 24 toddlers and 2 teachers. One of them being me, who can't speak Portuguese.
Wow, and was that like a volunteering thing, or that was an actual job?
Yeah, it was a volunteering situation. And so that was but I had lots of free time while I was there too to explore Brazil and Rio, and that was definitely one of the most fun experiences of my life.
So this was in Rio?
Yeah.
And if it looks like I'm walking funnily now, it is, because I went on an 8-hour hike on Sunday, and yeah, I think I need physiotherapy to learn how to walk again, because my walking up's fine, it's walking down that gets the kind of quad muscles on your legs, so if the camera's shaking weirdly, that's why. Anyway, so you were in Rio. You were living in Rio, you said?
Yeah.
And this was good?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, Rio is definitely something that should be on everybody's bucket list, I think.
I mean, I did visit Brazil. I was at Iguazu on the Argentina side and went to Brazil for 6 hours, stayed in the bus station on the Iguazu side and then came back again. So I think I've seen most of what there is to see in Brazil, really. There's no need to.
No.
It's a small country, there's not much there. I just don't, so.
Yeah.
You don't really need to see Rio.
Just a little chunk off the tip is all you need.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So you've just kind of been used to, like, because a lot of people are thinking about being a digital nomad, but they're not sure how to start, or they're apprehensive about traveling alone and stuff like that. Was this a problem for you, or because you travelled a lot when you were a kid, it wasn't a big deal, or what was the first solo trip you did?
Well, my parents, we had exchange students growing up, and I think this is kind of what eased me into it. Was after our first exchange student from Brazil stayed with us for a year, my family and her family welcomed me into their home and allowed me to spend a whole summer with them in Rio.
So you exchanged back when you were a kid?
Kind of, yeah. Not an official program, but I just went and stayed with her and her family. And
how old were you when you did that?
I was 15 and I spent my 16th birthday in Rio.
Wow.
So I was quite young to be going off on my own, but I had her and her family, and that kind of really sparked the love of not just traveling, but actually living and experiencing another culture. And so I did the same thing when we had a Norwegian exchange student, and really just fell in love with getting to know about other cultures in a really intense way, I guess.
And so have you done a lot of travelling not as a digital nomad as well, or just mostly as a digital nomad? Or not, well, this is new to you actually, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, most of my traveling has been as a non-digital nomad. Rather just, trying to save up money, or to volunteer, or going and working as an au pair.
So you did the au pair thing?
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, I had an amazing experience. I had a really wonderful family. The kids were super sweet. I took care of 4 boys, triplet 10-year-olds who turned 11, and a 1-year-old boy as well.
Speaking personally, this sounds like a nightmare, but I guess it was good for you.
They were excellent. I got super lucky, and the family that I worked for were incredible as well. I've definitely heard horror stories from other people, but I had an amazing experience.
So this was in Paris, you said?
Yeah, just outside in Saint-Germain-en-Laye.
And how did you like Paris?
I loved it. I didn't choose the best year to go. It was one of their rainiest or snowiest years in 36 years. And so the French were slightly more cranky that year.
Aren't they just, Parisians just cranky all the time?
I think they at least that year they were, but I was cranky too, so I was right on that.
So you're fitting in with the culture.
Yeah, that rain really got to everybody, but Paris is beautiful and full of so much culture, and I really loved the people as well, and so I definitely am grateful that I had that experience.
Oh, that's great. So, yeah, I mean, all these early travel experiences kind of get you addicted to traveling, don't they? Or it did for me anyway.
Yeah, and once you start, it's like you can't stop.
So you're new to the whole digital nomad thing now. I presume you kind of got into that because you want to just travel for longer and it gives you that flexibility, or did you get bored while you're traveling, or what's the reason for that?
Well, yeah, I wanted to keep traveling and actually spending extended periods of time somewhere. And so being a digital nomad kind of offers you that. You can choose where you want to go and how long you want to spend there. I mean, so long as legal stuff like visas and all of that works out, but for the most part you have a lot more control over what you're doing and where you're staying.
And so how long have you been a digital nomad now? Just a few weeks, is it? Or
No, I would say kind of since the start of summer. So around May is when I really started to work full-time online and start to build up my student base.
And what are the biggest things you've learned, or your biggest impressions, or were there any unexpected things you found from it so far?
Well, I've learned that I can't travel very easily during the week. You know, there are some restrictions that I need good Wi-Fi, good reliable Wi-Fi. I need to, all those sort of like tech things when things go wrong, I'm definitely starting to get used to preparing for the unexpected.
I'm just looking at the map to see where we're going here, by the way. So I guess your job is basically 90+% being on video calls with people teaching them English. I mean, is that right?
Yeah, I'd say 90 or 80%. I have to do some lesson planning as well, but now I do sort of have some set lesson plans. And there's, especially for teaching English, there's a lot of resources online that help make that easier. So mostly it's being on camera and talking to people, which I love, but having to keep a smile on my face and super enthusiastic for, I don't know, 6 or 8 hours a day can definitely take a toll on you.
Yeah, I can't do that for 6 or 8 minutes, so yeah. 6 or 8 hours would be a challenge. And also you can't, like for what I do, I'm a web developer, I can just do that on a train, I can do that anywhere, I don't even need internet sometimes. But you would have to plan to be in a quiet room with good Wi-Fi for several hours while you're doing it, I guess, right? Which is...
Yeah, and so that's been a bit tricky at times when I've gone to stay with friends, or if, you know, hotels, when you book out, it's you lose access to the room, and so I lose access to my quiet place to teach my class and my internet, and then I have to kind of rush to be like, okay, where am I gonna teach my class from? So I've definitely...
That's fun though, isn't it?
No. If you find stress fun.
Okay, right. So I guess co-working spaces don't really make a lot of sense for you either then?
Yeah, I have heard that some people teach, do some classes from co-working spaces. I am curious how that works out. I am very vocal when I teach, and I talk a lot, and I sing a lot as well because I work with kids as young as 3. So
wow, okay.
I think if I spent even an hour in the co-working space, people would want to push me out pretty quickly.
And co-working spaces do have call booths, but you would just be in the booth all day.
Yeah,
I guess
so
it doesn't really make sense, does it?
Kind of just stay in my flat, which here we have a great situation because I do have a great Wi-Fi in my studio, and I have a nice place to set up and teach from where I'm staying right now.
So you're in Four Leaf Clover as well?
I am, yeah.
Which is the co-living space that I'm also staying in Bansko, one of the big ones. Although I go to Bansko co-working during the day. Great, okay. So finally, what advice would you give to people who want to become a digital nomad but aren't sure about doing it, or don't have the confidence to travel alone, or something like that?
I think that even if you don't think that there's a way, or if it's possible, there's always a way. You know, so if you really want to make this happen, you definitely can. There's so many different opportunities now, especially after COVID. so many things have turned online, and you know, it's not as scary as I think. When you travel alone, you meet people quite quickly, and kind of the communities do really come together to help you if you have a problem, and it shows you this amazing side of different countries that you might not have seen. So definitely go for it. That's my main advice.
And so would you say just do a little trip by yourself first, or start teaching online on the side, or set up a little side hustle, maybe something like that?
You know, like for me, I just started slowly kind of transitioning my teaching to all being online, and then once you do that, all it takes is just taking your first trip, planning it out, and after that I think you'll probably be hooked.
Brilliant. I mean, especially if you're a native English speaker, or even if you just speak English really well, English teaching is always a really good option that you've got.
Yeah, and even if you're not a native English speaker, or even an English speaker at all, there's a lot of teaching opportunities for any language, and I think that's always an option for anybody, I think, if they enjoy teaching and enjoy working with other people.
So did you do a TEFL certificate, or?
I've been working on mine. Yeah, I've mostly worked with non-English my whole life, or well, not teaching English my whole time working with kids, but yeah, I'm taking a lot of what I've known in the past and putting it into what I'm doing now as well.
So if someone has no experience and just wanted to become an online English teacher, what would they need to do?
I think, well, for me, not having any teaching experience with specifically English before, I tried to read up what I could, and I chose programs that could let me teach just the way that I was. So there's lots of different programs out there. Some of them have different requirements. Some of them require a bachelor's, some of them require certificates, some of them require even more, some of them require nothing. So there's definitely different platforms out there if you do your research, and there's definitely something for anybody, I think.
That's great. Okay, well, thanks for that, Shelbi. It's very interesting, and I'll see you guys on the road.